Hey everyone, it's Clint. Welcome to Sweetcast. I want to make a really quick video because I was up too late streaming. That was an awful lot of fun though, streaming. It was great. Alright, so I'm making this video as sort of a follow-up to my last video in which I basically gave reasons why you should not crowdfund your comic. Now, it was only really 10% clickbait and 90% actually real and true, but you had to actually watch the video in order to get what my points were. Now, I was kind of surprised to see that on Twitter it ended up being kind of a controversy, and I thought about going over some of the discussion that I had on Twitter, but rather than I don't want to highlight small creators in that way, so I wanted to address some of the broader points because I don't think that it's just a small, tiny group that sees it that way. So yeah, here we go. We're going to address this. Now, when I said don't crowdfund your comic if you're not ready, I understand that that is a really broad statement, and the question is, am I ready? I remember going through those same kinds of thoughts and worries of, am I ready to crowdfund Downcast yet? Is it time to launch? Am I ready to pull that trigger? And it got really, really nerve-wracking because I didn't want to fail, and you really don't want to fall on your face in front of everybody when everyone's watching. And I know that there are some people that'll tell you that the one route to get a crowdfunded comic book working is to create your own YouTube channel, build up a following of whatever X number of subscribers, and then launch your campaign, something like that. That works. It's worked for many people, but it really relies upon you making YouTube videos and making that work for you. And I really don't think that everybody is actually cut out to make YouTube videos, frankly. However, I will say that I was surprised at, I don't think I'm fantastic at making YouTube videos, but it's, I guess, useful enough to people, and working at it enough gets enough attention. And so it worked for me, and I was kind of pleasantly surprised at how well it worked for me. Now, one of the reactions to the video was that of extreme disappointment, in that if crowdfunding is really this hard, then you should just give up. You should cancel your book because you're not going to get crowdfunded anyway. It's not going to work. You're not going to get funded. It's just too big of an ask, basically. Now, that is not my point at all in making the video. The point was, there are some realities to crowdfunding. I'm really not the kind of person that says just follow your dreams. If you keep following your dreams, it's going to come true. I think obviously that's important in order for you to get there, but just following your dream, it's not going to get you there. There are some really specific things that you might run across, some opportunities that you need to seize, and some really, maybe stressful situations to put yourself in to grow the ways that you need to grow. And yeah, there's a little bit of luck too. And I'm not, trying to figure out luck and how that plays into everything, I think, is a fool's errand. And so I'm going to focus on more of what I can control. And I think that's a good idea for everybody, rather than focusing on, getting your lucky break. Now, I think that crowdfunding is still a very viable way to get your comic done. I will be using crowdfunding in the future. However, the goal here for me, it's not to have a successfully crowdfunded comic book, right? And sometimes I feel like that becomes the goal. That's the ultimate prize. It's not really, and I would bet that if you want to make comics, it's probably not your goal either. The ultimate goal is to have a published comic. How you get to that goal is probably going to vary, from whatever angle you're going to attack it from, and that's okay. That's how things work. I disagree with a lot of things that Mark Waid said, but I believe he's the one that said breaking into comics is kind of like breaking out of prison. It only takes, one person's going to do it one way, one time, and then everyone else is going to have to find a new way to do it because it's going to be closed behind them, essentially, something like that. I am finding that's definitely true. It's not necessarily that only one person's going to find a route that works, but it's just the trend that we kind of see. So, for example, webcomics. I'm on BuzzFeed here just because, it was the first thing I Googled. I just clicked on a random site. So apologies for the BuzzFeed reference. 42 webcomics you need to read. Remember when webcomics were huge and this was the new route for getting into comics, and you could really make a name for yourself. You could build an audience at the same time that liked your comics, and you can make a ton of money. there were a few standout successes that did so well on webcomics that it was just fascinating, and it drew a lot of people to go and make webcomics. And now they're just everywhere, absolutely everywhere. And so it's kind of fitting that this was written in 2013. Yep. 2013. Things have changed quite a bit as far as webcomics go. You can still make webcomics. And if it's something you want to do, if it's a method or a route that you want to take, go for it. I don't think there's anything wrong with webcomics whatsoever, but I'm going to say that it just doesn't seem to have the fire that it used to have, or at least not the glamour. It might not be as glamorous as it used to be, but it's definitely a route. It still exists. It's not like it's dead or anything like that, but it's just not the sexy thing right now. Even before that, it seemed to be the only route to get into comics, or this is really the dream for everybody, is to send in a submission to a publisher that accepts submissions and get into comics that way. And there's several here. We got Dark Horse Comics, DC Entertainment. Good luck there. Mad Magazine is closed down, so good luck with that one. Image, Top Cow, Marvel. Again, Marvel doesn't really accept submissions, but yeah, there's several others that will accept submissions, and you can try your luck that way. Chances are it's not going to go very well. It's going to be very difficult. And essentially what it comes down to is they want to publish people that they feel like are going to be selling books really well. And so they kind of, like, your chances are better if you have an audience ahead of time anyway. But that is rough because like I said in my last video, in order to have a successful crowdfunding campaign that makes enough money for it to make sense and be a viable route to actually making a print comic book, you've got to have a lot of people. You got to bring a crowd to support your crowdfunding project. So I get it. I know the feeling is a lot of people are going to think, well, I'm stuck. There's nothing that I can possibly do to make comics because everything requires me to pull in an audience myself, and to, it's the same thing with web comics and all that. Now, what I'm here to say is that essentially that is the nut that needs to be cracked. After that, anything else, all the other things around building an audience, I don't think really matter quite as much. If you can figure out how to get on a platform and how to draw a lot of attention for you and your comics and get people willing to give you a shot, that is how you can do it on your own. If you want to get picked up by a publisher and have a publisher publish you and take care of all of the marketing kind of stuff, I mean, that's great too. Now, I say that like it's so easy, but that's not easy either. There are all sorts of these circular problems and issues that you run into, and what I don't want to do is discourage you from crowdfunding if that's the route that you see. Again, it's still a totally viable route, but you're going to really ensure your success if you do the work ahead of time. And if you're talking about your book for months, I would say at least 6 months before you launch your campaign, you should really be talking about it so everybody knows to expect it. And attack the problem at your own angle. Figure out what you're bringing to the table, what people might be interested in you, and what they might see in you, and how you can give people an opportunity to support you and really give them a reason to support you. That is really, really important. Even if you're going to publishers, give them a reason to publish you and nobody else. What makes you a must-have creator? What makes your webcomic a must-read webcomic that people are going to come back to over and over and share and all that kind of stuff? I don't know the answer to this. Okay, I know that's sad, but that's because, I mean, it's different for everybody. There's so many just unique circumstances. You have a unique set of skills and weaknesses. By no means, don't let my words discourage you, but rather, I hope that you see what it is, and rather than wanting the bar to be lower for you to get through, to get in, see where the bar is and rise to the challenge. A matter of having the right kinds of selling points, and I really think that at that point you'll be able to find doors either that will be opened up to you, or you'll be able to break through those doors on your own, however it is that you find to do it. So thank you very much for watching the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know down below what you think about all this. What's the best way to break into comics? And I'd really love to see people sort of thinking outside the box on what you could do to attack this from a different angle, besides what we've already seen happen throughout history, I guess, of how to get into comics. So thanks very much, and I'll talk to you next time.